there. And
Meet you. I'm good. I
yeah, here
can't
we
believe
are.
it.
I
This
can't
is
believe I
amazing.
figured out how to do this. This is like my second Zoomer right here. You know, without my granddaughter around, who lives somewhere else with my daughter, I don't know what to do with these computers. That's sort of the,
I don't,
can you
okay.
hear me?
Yes, I
That's
hear you
sort
perfectly.
of the problem of having 4 secretaries in your company that do all this for you, and then you sell
Yeah.
it, and now I feel like someone's taken all my clothes away. Well, this past year I had 28 different universities I went to, and I enjoy it.
Oh my God.
I hardly turn anybody down, and there were the range of from like Penn and Yale and Harvard and then FIT
Fantastic.
and Savannah School of Design and RISD and Brown, you know, all different kinds of schools. And depending upon where I go, my talk is directed to those kinds of students, because I was both the CEO of my company and the creative director.
Yes.
And then I have this third area that I've sort of become an expert at, on how to take a very successful entrepreneurial, nimble business, move it into a corporation, because that's who bought us, Tapestry,
Yes.
and make the decisions that can ruin it. So there's the opposite, you know, approach there. And now that I'm out of the company 2 years, I'm allowed to talk about them. I had a 2-year,
Yes.
we're not going to talk against each other in any way. So.
Correct.
But businesses like mine do not belong in corporations. I will tell you that. It's very rare that they have the discipline and the flexibility to compete in that kind of world. Anyway, what did you want to talk about?
So my first question, actually, you just talked about it. You were both the CEO and head of creative for Stuart Weitzman. And a lot of companies, a lot of brands, especially in luxury, who have tried that have failed. What do you think was your secret?
Well, first of all, most companies don't try that. You generally will have a business head and a creative head. And I could name all firms that are prestigious in branding and ready-to-wear and luxury items. Calvin Klein had his partner, Ralph Lauren had his partner. Of course, Saint Laurent and Pierre Berge. It generally worked out that way because the creative person who has to be there first, without the product, nothing else happens, generally doesn't come from the business world. And in my case, it was just a coincidence that I ended up being a shoe designer, because my intention and my background, and I went to the Wharton School. I wanted to go to Wall Street. I had that all planned. But I was also an artistic kid as a hobby. I was smart enough to know I wasn't making a living like, you know, Picasso did. So it was a hobby, and I enjoyed it. And interesting circumstance just led me into shoe design, which seemed to be a lot more fun than trying to analyze stocks. And that's what I did. But I had that business head and background. And I'll tell you this, I can't think of one instance when the business decision and the creative decision were in conflict where I didn't go with the business decision. The business decision always won out. And that was the practicality of that background that I had and the way I thought, even from a kid on up. So it was unusual. You can't recommend it. It just happens or it doesn't, but it certainly isn't necessary. It is an advantage. I had a wonderful advantage because of it, but it's not necessary.
And can you give us an example of a pivotal moment where you have to go with your business decision versus your design decision?
It usually has to do with the engineering of the shoe. I had 2 designers working with me. I was always the head designer, but I always had 2 people in my studio with me. And they were designers purely. So they would create beautiful sketches, even wonderful groups of shoes around a concept. And if I liked that concept and wanted to incorporate it into what I was creating, I often had to change it. And it didn't make it better looking. I had to change it because it didn't seem to me like it was going to function. And I was a very, very talented technician in footwear. I learned that very well over the years, working at it personally, directly in my own factory, as opposed to using someone else's. So I had that hands-on approach, and I always did. Now we had a shoe, we had a boot.
Yep.
That was a successful boot, and I wanted to take it above the knee because I wanted it to be something that hadn't been done from a fashion standpoint. Of course, the Three Musketeers wear boots like that, but you know, in battle, I suppose. But in fashion, which is its own battle, I wanted to do that. And the dimensions of the leg vary much more than the dimensions of the foot. Yeah. So when we make you an 8, pretty much all the girls who think they wear 8s can wear that shoe. But all of you who wear an 8 in a pump cannot wear the same boot because of the tremendous variance in calves and in thighs.
Correct.
I decided to cut the boot in half. We call it 50-50. Have you heard of the 50-50? Do you know what that boot is? Really? Well, I thought everyone in America.
It's the one that Gigi Hadid's wearing.
Well, she wears that and one other also, but so does everyone else. You know, I could give you. There isn't a Hollywood star who doesn't own this boot, as well as several million women running around the world. And I cut it in half vertically and put Lycra in the back. Now I got that idea from the way you ladies fell in love with leggings.
Yeah.
I mean, leggings did away with skirts. Originally, this is how it started. The girls would go into their daddy's closets, get out a big white shirt, wear leggings, and the shirt was hung over almost like a mini skirt, you know, over their leggings. And you became addicted to it. You still are. I mean, it's, you know, everything is designed with that in mind. And I took the idea of a legging, said, if I can make a boot that hugs the leg like a legging, then I've created a new article of clothing, not a new boot design. And I didn't want it to be a fabric boot. So I split it down the middle, put the legging material in the back, and that made it possible for athletic girls to wear it, skinny girls. The original was made for Angelina Jolie's leg. She never could wear a boot. You would look at her in pictures, you could see she could almost never wear a boot that stayed up on her.
Yep.
And I decided to make it for as thin a leg as I recognized was out there and see if it would fit average and over average legs. And it did. And that changed the look of it. It wasn't 100% suede or 100% leather. And that was a compromise. But in the end, I thought that you don't see what's behind you. And if everyone can buy it and the legging material can help it hug the leg instead of look like that expression, a sock on a rooster kind of attitude. Yeah. And it became the biggest boot in the shoe industry and changed the industry, turned boots into fashion items instead of just functional items. So that was one of those decisions where if I hadn't been the businessman, maybe I just would have tried to make a tight-fitting, all-leather boot that 20% of the women could wear instead of 80%.
I mean, it still looks beautiful. I mean, I didn't realize you were this. I didn't realize you were the start of that style where
that was I created it. Maybe it'll be my epitaph on my tombstone.
Oh my God.
Stuart created the fashion thigh-high boot.
I didn't realize that. Oh my God, thank you.
But anyway, when we're done, I'm going to just suggest go to the internet and just look up the word 50/50 boot, Stuart Weitzman. You will find more than 200 copies. You can probably buy it from $80 up to $2,000, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Oh my God. I have another question then. I know you are a shoe brand and you stuck to that product and you haven't expanded your product category like everyone else. Why and how was that business decision made?
I was very, very good at making footwear. The industry is multi-billion dollars of product. The greatest competitors in clothing items are those that make ready to wear. Dior, Chanel, Saint Laurent, cool brands like Celine, Givenchy. These, I didn't relish trying to compete with them. And I looked at the footwear industry and it seemed to me to be backwards, that there was so much opportunity to outcompete your competitors. And those of us who stayed with footwear became the biggest shoe brands in the world. Yves Saint Laurent tried and makes shoes and they're on his mannequins.
Yep.
Once in a while, he'll hit a shoe that means something, otherwise it doesn't. I can say the same with most every other brand. Now, you take two brands like Chanel and Prada. They started with footwear. The Chanel sling, as Coco Chanel created it, with the tip, the cap toe, that was their first great product. And Prada also did with footwear and branched out into others. But they always kept footwear as their main item. Chanel today has footwear stores only. But you take other brands like Charles Jourdan and Sergio Rossi and John Vito Rossi and Aquazzura. These are great shoe companies. Jimmy Choo is another. Louboutin, where 90% or more of what they do is footwear. And I kept mine that way also because I didn't want to be third, fourth, and fifth on the block in a product I knew I couldn't do as well as the champions of that product. But I could be number one in something that I was very good at. And I'm in an industry with billions of dollars of sales. So what was the need? I was also so hands-on that I didn't have a choice. I dedicated so much of my time to the product as opposed to so much of my time as the CEO running the company, that there was no time for me to be a multi-product corporate CEO. The design would have suffered tremendously. And that aspect of our business that I brought to Stuart Weitzman would have disappeared. That was a decision I made when I started to get very successful and started to go around the world. And boy, it paid off. I think our profit margins were 20% and up net after everything.
Wow.
And that was because we concentrated. And then I bought the first factory. So I had my own factory. I made agreements with other factories, almost a dozen others, that to make no shoes for anyone but me, 100% Stuart Weitzman footwear. So it was as if I owned them, and that allowed me to buy the leather for everybody and buy the trimmings and the soles and ornaments and make agreements with the workers, and because they were all within the same industrial complex area. No, it was a very sound decision. I never had aspirations to be a multi-billion-dollar, multi-branded corporate enterprise like LVMH, for example. Never had any interest in that. I wanted to be the best in footwear that existed in my price range.
Do you think it would have been different if you if you sold your company or a big portion of your company to someone else? And obviously, you always have a pressure to comp your business, grow your business aggressively. Do you think this is one of the blessings that you kept your company under your own control for such a long time?
Well, it was a terrific advantage. It kept me entrepreneurial. But I didn't think of it that way. I was waiting to see if my two daughters either had an interest in coming into the business. And when they both started careers and became very successful at them, and I saw their passion in them as I had in mine, I said, I'm not going to try to talk them out of what they're doing. I did what I wanted to do. Obviously, it's not going to go on in my family. I need to find another home. That was the only reason I looked to sell it. I had no other option.
Got it.
I could have gone public. I didn't want the red tape that goes with all of that.
Yeah, of course. It's a completely different ball game when you go public.
Quarterly, and now, not for me.
And with what's going on with COVID-19 and how it's all these retailers now filing bankruptcy, and there's going to be less brands surviving this. What is, and you've gone through 9/11, you've gone through last recession and previous recessions. What is your thought? What is your outlook? And what are your recommendations for those brands that are, constantly trying to survive?
Well, you threw in a lot of questions there, sort of like a reporter, who are interrogating Trump in his daily meeting. Questions. But I'm going to be a little more straight than he might have been in his answers.
Yes, please.
Well, I sold my company. I couldn't have picked a more perfect time. That was coincidence. But sometimes, you get a little lucky. For the people who are in retail today, consumer product retail, we don't know what the future is going to be. We know that the internet and website sales and social media will dominate retail. It began to take it over little by little over the past 10 years or 15 years. I do recall when Zappos, Zappos?
Yes, of course.
I mean, Zappos opened a website to sell shoes. Everyone laughed. I wouldn't sell Zappos. Who is going to buy a shoe without trying it on? That was what the entire industry said. And they built $1 billion business in like 8 years. Yeah. And they overcame the obstacles, like you can return it, we'll pay for going and coming. You want to take 2 pair in to see which one fits better, that's okay with us. So they created a system that made it work. And that began to grow, and every other retailer in the world got into the internet business as well, big and small ways. I remember close to my last year in business, Neiman Marcus sold more of our shoes on their website than in 41 stores. How about that?
Oh, wow.
We were represented in most of those 40 stores. So it began to take a big part of maybe 15 to 20% of retail before this happened. Now it's like 90% because there is no option. But it will continue to be, I think, grow to be the major part. So you have to be able to do business online. Now that creates a different requirement for what you're doing business with. In clothing and footwear, if you can be consistent and very good fitting, you'll have a better business online than if you're inconsistent. And that's obvious. I mean, if a woman knows what size she wears in Stuart Weitzman, she doesn't think twice about ordering it online. But if you're inconsistent in what you make, then you're probably not going to get as much business as you deserve.
Yeah.
So that's an element that becomes even that much more important. Now you take the consumer attitude. I don't care when they say you can open up stores. People who are really thoughtful are just not going to barrel back in. And the stores are probably going to have to encourage them by limiting entry, separating seating, making it more difficult, therefore, to go shop because you might be waiting. I mean, I went to a supermarket the other day to get some things in a small town that I thought would be, all right, this less people, easier to get in, easier to get out. And they had a line outside and they were letting in only 5 people at a time. Yeah. And that will be the case for retail. I suppose until we know that we can get a vaccine or have a medicine that cures us well and quickly, the government can tell you whatever they want. We're still not running back to shop the way we did. So in the near term or long term, that depends upon the medicines, we have to live that way. And it's not going to be easy. And think about this also. Retailers make 5 to 10% if they're doing well.
Yep.
Now, if you're only letting in a quarter or a third of the people, how do you even survive? Certainly rents will drop as stores open up from bankruptcies. But rent is 10 to 15%, 20% max of a cost. You have all the other costs. And I don't know how stores can survive in the long term, meaning a couple of years, on reduced traffic. They'll, if they don't have options, because that's what they know and that's what they've learned their whole life, they'll try and keep it going until hopefully things open up, but they're not gonna be healthy during that time period.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm hoping that we'll come out of this as a healthier, greener, kinder world. We'll see what happens.
Don't you love that you can see the skyscrapers in LA these days?
Oh my God. I could hear the birds in New York City. There are quite a lot of birds. Just going back to your creative process, how do you start? Who's your muse? I know you.
All right, well, let me tell you a little bit about some things that I think your viewers would really like to know. And so I'll start with the creative side because you brought that up, but there's many more aspects that are worthwhile to learn from my experiences. When it comes to creativity, I always look at 2 things. One is about 75% of what our business is, and the other is the experimental side, the 25%, because what becomes experimental is next year's commercial, perhaps. So we always have to have that there. We all try to think about themes, attitudes that we can design into. But all of what we're designing into is based upon a need. Now, it may be a need for beautiful things that are needed by some women, but others look at it as a waste of time and money, but it still is their need. Or it may be that it solves a problem. And I'll give you an example on that. Perhaps the most famous shoe that I ever designed is a shoe called the Nudist.
Yes.
You know the Nudist?
No, of course I know the Nudist.
All right, now, so here's a lady who knows the Nudist but didn't know the 50-50. That says something about you. For those who don't know the Nudist, we're not talking about beaches, by the way. We're talking about a very beautiful, sexy shoe. And this is why that shoe got into my business, into my collection, and why it became our most famous shoe. It filled a need. And here was the need. I was very successful at getting celebrities to wear our products at red carpet events. Much more so than we should have based upon our price range. Stylists are hired for lots of money to outfit women for these great events, because these actresses know they're going to be photographed hundreds, even thousands of times. And the professionals search the market for dresses and jewelry and hair designers and footwear, everything that goes with it. And they're paid for that. So if they can bring back to an actress $20,000, just to put out a number, of product versus $10,000 of product, they generally command a higher fee. And that's their connections to the world's best designers. My problem was that we make a shoe that is often half the cost of the highest price shoes in the marketplace.
Yep.
And that doesn't add to the value in dollar terms of what this stylist is bringing to her actress. So we had to convince them in other ways. And that was where the design and fellow peers, meaning other actresses who you want to emulate if you're an up-and-coming actress, love what we do. And we were very successful at getting them. But we lost, this is not an exaggeration, 30% of them the day before or the day of the event. This is how we lost them. You tell me why, because I never got this. They felt, an actress might feel pink the day
Yep.
she selected the dress, 3 weeks before the event. 2 days before the event, she wakes up, she thinks blue. She doesn't want to wear pink. Well, dresses are available to change for her. The stylist has worked with several designers to see collections and knows where they can be found. But footwear is made custom to these actresses. And it's not possible, if I've created a shoe to go with that pink dress, to change it in a day or two or remake it in a day or two so it goes with the blue dress. And we would lose actresses who were committed to us simply for that reason. And I remember thinking, I have to create a shoe that is, first of all, so simple, but so beautifully elegant that it can go with anything. Because we didn't just lose the actress because of color. We lost her also because of design of footwear. It would conflict with the changing design of the dress. So it had to be simple. Then I had to be able to adapt it to whatever color they might have changed to. And I created the nudist. The nudist, you know it, just a single strip on the toe,
Yep.
with a beautiful ankle strap with the closed back that gave it a better fit, and that wonderful setback heel. I say setback because it's very straight as opposed to slung under. When heels sling under, they look shorter, even though they're not. When they're set back, you capture the entire height of the back of the shoe, not the arch of the shoe. And you don't raise the woman up anymore, but it looks much higher. So I was able to create a heel that made the shoe look like it was 6 inches high, but it was not quite 5.
Oh.
It had the same look. We gained almost an inch by moving the line of the shoe way back. That was an engineering issue. We had to fix and control so the heel didn't snap off, but we did. And the color was solved by making the shoe in white satin. It was now available in every color on the Pantone card. We could dye it. We could dye it an hour before the event if we had to. Now, the actress wouldn't order it in white satin. She'd order it in gold or silver or yellow or red or whatever, and that was what she's going to wear 2/3 of the time.
Yeah.
Changed her dress. That shoe's no good, but she didn't need to go to a different shoemaker. We had that shoe, every size, in white satin in stock in our store in Beverly Hills. And we could then dye it for her, and we never lost a sale after that. So it was a need that forced me and inspired me to create a sandal that became the most iconic shoe on the red carpet. You look at any red carpet event today, and it's 10 years, by the way, since that shoe was first created.
Yep.
A quarter to a third of the women are wearing that shoe. Maybe not mine, because there are 200 copies, A lot of them, of course, are wearing mine, but some aren't. And it doesn't matter. We still get credit for it. I remember seeing a credit after the Academy Awards last year said, so-and-so in Calvin Klein dress and Stuart Weitzman sandal. It was Calvin Klein sandal.
Oh, no.
They didn't research it. They just assumed this is Stuart sandal. You know?
Oh, no. Fabulous.
So,
Even better.
It's the need that helps start the creative process. And I gave you, of course, an extreme example, but the same thing happens when it comes to career women. And I'll make a shoe that doesn't make them feel like they're wearing an old lady shoe to the law office, but is as comfortable as what that old lady shoe might be. So our DNA was always comfort, was function and fashion, you know, function first. That was when I said the business side always came first. And I don't think, anyway, I think the essence of design is function.
Yes.
What if you don't have function, what the heck is the design? All of a sudden you put it on, it kills you, and now it's ugly, right?
Exactly.
So the essence of design is function. And that's one of the lessons I learned that I try to tell, you know, people going out into the world, whether they be even lawyers. If you could do your job well, that's your function. You'll be better at it and you'll get a better reputation about it. And certainly writing software or making pens or shoes or clothing. You have to think of function as your first element of design. I also, I'll tell you, I think you recognize when you make a shoe like that and you put, say, all your hopes on it, you're taking risks. That's a risk. Yeah. I didn't offer 12 designs to these actresses. I offered them that shoe. Boy, if they didn't like it, or if it didn't fit. Of course, we did as much analysis and testing as we could to make sure it fit. But that was a risk, and I think entrepreneurs, we have to take risks. Yeah. I mean, who else is going to take risks? Creative people and entrepreneurs take risks. If you imagine you're a lawyer, right? What you're doing is you're defending against the risks your clients never should have taken in the first place. You don't want to take risks. Or doctors, of course, they can't take risks. But we can take risks. Creative people and entrepreneurs can take risks, and we have to. We have to take risks.
Fantastic.
I don't know why this thought had come into my head once in one of my talks, but I said, imagine if Michelangelo was opposed to risks. We would be looking at his work on the walls of the Sistine Chapel instead of the ceiling. So you take risks, and like Warhol took risks and he created new art. Risk can take you 3 steps forward. May take you 2 steps back once in a while too, but that's our advantage. We are able to take them, and we should. We treat them as friends.
And I think that's how we're going to survive. We're going to, especially during this time, because that's what's going to make you different. And you got to try everything to see what sticks, because it's very unknown on territorial world. We have 3 minutes left.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, no, this is great. Okay, I'm going to ask you quick questions. Who's your favorite celebrity that you have worked with?
Oh, if you hadn't said have worked with, I would have said someone else. But who I worked with, I think Gigi Hadid takes that. Although Jennifer Aniston was wonderful, you know, with our product and showed it off well. And certainly Halle Berry did too. But Gigi, she was young when we made her the face of our brand. And she was so nice and so wholesome and so sweet, engaged with us for charity work that she truly, truly loved doing. I mean, she was on Jimmy Fallon and had been given Woman of the Year by a fashion magazine because of her work. They're all probably more beautiful models than she is, but she did a lot of wonderful things for kids. And she said, what I did for those schools, she went, it makes me so happy. That was so honest and sincere, and that endeared me to her. And her to me. I was very pleased during my time working with her.
Fantastic.
Had you said someone I hadn't worked with, it would have been Marilyn Monroe.
Oh.
Oh, I would have loved to have made shoes for her.
Oh my God! Why?
Oh, well, she's the iconic, sexy
Yeah.
girl. And she pulled it off. And who doesn't know that picture of her over the subway grate with her dress, a 7-year in
Yes.
blown up. Oh, if those were my shoes.
Your favorite book or book you're reading right now?
There's a new book by Churchill. I'm going to show it. Maybe the people would love to. This is great. It's called Splendor in the Vile by Eric Larson. And
Okay.
Churchill was one of those Renaissance men of the past century. And there's so much to learn from him. Many of his quotes are told in stories in this book. And one of them is so appropriate today. He said during the bombing of London, "Never in the history of man have so many owed so much to so few." And he was referring to the airmen who were up there trying to defend against the Nazi bombers with much inferior product. Think about that saying, that expression, with today's frontline healthcare workers.
Yes.
Really true.
With that, I think we're done. Thank you so much. Thank you. This is amazing. I am so happy, and thank you so much for your time.
All right. Well, if I have a free week, maybe I'll call you